What is up, my fellow gamers? In today's video, we're going over some gameplay tips and tricks in NBA Infinite. I'm going to have timestamps down below in the description box so you can navigate to different parts that we are going to be covering. This video is in partnership with the Courtside Creator Program. First thing we're going over is the dunk mechanic. So there's a lot of little factors that go into dunking, specifically your player's skills. Now, certain players are going to be more susceptible to doing dunks further away from the basket. Some are going to be able to do dunks closer to the basket. There's just a lot of variables. In order to get a better grasp of what your player can do, it's highly recommended that you go into your skill details, and it's going to be under finishing. This is where you can kind of take a look and see what specific skills your player has when it comes to dunking or layups or whatever it may be. For Embiid, we have some things that I just want to go over real quick, and then I'm going to show you how to do a dunk and stuff like that. But we have Dunk Monster. Now, this is going to say that it greatly increases your standing dunk rate. If you have a player who doesn't have this, then that pretty much means if you're just standing under the basket, your player is not going to dunk the ball. They're going to try and do one of those, like, layups or shots. And if someone's near you, it's going to be heavily contested. You're going to instantly miss. So Dunk Monster is an amazing finishing skill. Look out for this specific skill on players. You also have something like Pro Dunker, which an open driving dunk rate will greatly increase. Contested driving dunk rate also increases. So in order to pull off a dunk, you're going to be looking for this tiny little icon in front of your player. It's basically going to be this like little arrow. So once you get kind of close enough to the basket, you're going to see that, you see that little yellow arrow that is in our blue radius. That blue radius we're going to talk about later, but that's pretty much our contested area. But once you see that little yellow kind of triangle thingy right there, that means we are in dunking range. However, you got to be moving towards the basket. If I try and do a dunk right now, which in order to do a dunk, you're basically hitting the shoot button, it's just going to trigger a shot. So you need to be moving towards the basket while you see that little yellow icon. So if I'm going ahead and I'm dribbling and now I see it, I'm still moving. Next thing we're going to go over is the layups. Now, layups are slightly different than dunking, but it has the same idea. Instead of just tapping the shoot button while moving forward and having that yellow icon, we are now going to be dragging the shoot button up. We get a little bit closer to the basket and we hit up on our joystick. Watch this. Now we're going to get that layup. You see, we got that open layup instead of a dunk by just dragging your shoot button up while moving towards the basket. The problem with layups is they are extremely easy to block. It's something that I don't really necessarily recommend you do. It's always better to do a dunk than a layup. There are also different actions that can trigger different types of layups, and it's also going to depend on your player. There are some players that can go ahead, like Giannis or someone who could do like a Euro step dunk, but there's also ones who can do a Euro step layup. So there's different types of layups that you also have to take into consideration. The best way to do it is look at your players, see what their finishing moves are, then come into practice mode and kind of try them out. Next thing we got is the shooting mechanics. Now there is a lot of variables that go ahead and affect your shot percentage to go ahead and make a shot. The first one being the heat map. So if you want to see what your heat map is, you're going to go to your settings in the top. You're going to go to where it says basic, and we're just going to scroll down, and then we're going to click heat map switch. So turn this on, and then you're going to constantly have this heat map. So your first priority is going to be trying to take jump shots in the red area. The red means that's where your player is hot at shooting. So you're going to get a bonus to your field goal percentage. As I go ahead and I pull a trigger, you're going to see that little bar show up. Blue is your ideal. If you get it in the blue, you're going to get a shot bonus to your success rate. If you have your shot meter end up in the yellow, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't negatively affect you, and it also doesn't positively affect you. If you land in the red is going to be a negative, and that is going to hurt your field goal percentage. So it's going to lower the chance that you actually make that shot. But sometimes, occasionally, if it's like a really bad shot, you won't even have one of those blue markers show up. it's gonna be all red, and then there might be like a little bit of yellow. The other thing that also affects your success rate is going to be whether your opponent is in that blue contested area. So right in front of your player, you have this blue cone icon. If you go ahead and shoot while your opponent is right in front of you in your blue cone area, it's gonna give you a contested shot, which is going to be another thing that can negatively affect your success rate for making the basket. You have lightly contested, moderately contested, and then heavy contested. The heavily contested means most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna miss it. Unless you got like a maxed out, player that has a specific skill that reduces the shot resistance, then you may have a slight chance to make it. But typically, you don't want to take those heavily contested shots. And the different contested rate is based on the distance they are from your player. So if they're like right on the outside of that blue marker, it's going to say lightly contested. The closer they get to you, like the deeper they get into that blue marker area, that is going to trigger the moderately contested. And then when they're like right in front of you, that's going to trigger the heavily contested. The other thing that also affects your shooting is if your player is moving. So if you're doing like a shot to the side, see how I'm still moving and I'm not stationary? That can also affect your success rate for making the basket as well. So like I said, there's a lot of factors that go into determine whether you make it or miss it. Now for defense, you really want to stay in front of your man in that blue cone shaped area. That is the contested area. As long as you stay in that, if your opponent tries to take a shot like you see right now, they have a very, very high chance that they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna miss it. You don't necessarily even have to jump. Just being in front of your opponent in that blue cone shaped area is going to negatively impact their shot percentage. However, there is that defend button. When you click that defend button, player goes into a defensive stance like this where they're gonna be trying to shuffle their feet left and right as you go ahead and you move your joystick. Now the problem with this is you pretty much leave yourself very susceptible to getting screened by an opponent. Also, by being in this defense stance, you also leave yourself wide open to be crossed up and pretty much put into that dizzy state where you'll see the little icon above your player's head and it'll be in that little dizzy thing, and then your player's like he broke his ankles, and then your opponent can just kind of drive by you and score easy. So you really need to find a nice balance between moving without defending, so just trying to like stay in front of your man, but also like occasionally clicking that defense to keep them in front of you. Now there are positives to defending, so don't think you should never defend, because there are some positives to defending. But again, this is going to determine what kind of skills your player has. If your player is really good at defense, you have the potential while defending to go ahead and cause a collision with them and then pretty much stop their dribble. So there's certain players like Kawhi Leonard, he's a legendary. He has an exclusive built into him that makes it a higher chance for that collision to trigger when defending, and then the opponent's just like, they can't dribble anymore, and you pretty much have them locked down. At that point, they're forced to either shoot the ball, which is going to be contested, heavily contested because you're right in front of them, or it's going to make them pass the ball. So you got to find a nice balance between when to go ahead and defend, and then when you see them try and do like a cross up move, then like lay off the defense and try and just stay in front of them while still trying to move your feet. You got to beat them to a spot. If you've played basketball before, you kind of know, like shuffle your feet, beat them to a spot. When it comes to rebounding, you're looking for the ball to glow after it goes ahead and hits the rim. That is the sweet spot to go ahead and use that jump button, aka rebound button, to grab the rebound. It pretty much comes down to whoever times it properly has the best chance to go ahead and grab the rebound, along with positioning as well. So there's kind of like a few factors that go into grabbing a rebound, aside from also, rebounding stats. Boxing out can pretty much stop your opponent from moving, and it establishes your position. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of boxing out. A lot of people think like boxing out doesn't really help, but it does if you do it right. Pretty much what boxing out a player does is it makes it so that they can't move. Player will go into an animation with them, and it's going to force them to stay in that position. If you don't box someone out, then they're free to kind of just move around the map. So let me go ahead and let me show you exactly what I mean. If I don't box this guy out, see how he's able to move around? See how he was able to like move towards the basket and stuff? Again, like See, if I don't box him out, he's free to just kind of move anywhere. So if the rebound goes left or right, you know, he can move over here. See how he was able to move? Now watch what happens if you box them out. It establishes position very well so that they can't go ahead and move. So it forces them. See how I was able to keep them behind me? As long as the rebound ends up in front of you, it's going to give you the advantage. Now, if it's a far rebound, then, you know, there's nothing you can do about that, just like in real basketball. If you're boxing somebody out and it's a far rebound, you know, it's hard to really get the ball because at that point they kind of have the advantage because they're further away from the basket. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this video. Stay happy, stay safe. I'll see y'all later. Peace.